Today on Startup Report is Som Ray from Clip. Welcome, sir.
Hi, good to be here.
So a lot of the people that I speak with are in closets or apartments. You're in a bigger place than that. That's a pretty impressive background.
Yeah, we are part of the New Lab ecosystem. This is the Brooklyn Navy Yard. This building used to be part of a shipbuilding complex, as you can see from the giant sort of gantry cranes that used to move, I think 50 years ago. But now it's part of this hardware ecosystem where a lot of interesting hardware companies are based.
That's great. And what connects us is you received an investment from the Thai fan group and fund, or investment group, which we're connected to, and that's what brings us together. So to get rolling, give us a quick overview on Clip. It's a really, really cool product.
Oh, thanks. So Clip is the world's first plug-and-play device that you can attach to any bicycle on the front fork and instantly motorize it into an e-bike. So we designed this for commuters who want to commute to work by bicycle but are afraid of that hill, and they don't want to arrive sweaty to work. They don't want to buy an expensive e-bike, probably have a bike lying around that they use on weekends. So you can attach this small device to the front of the bike, and your bike then becomes an e-bike.
That's great. So it kind of essentially looks like almost like a big tuning fork. It clips onto the front rails of or the front wheel holding fork.
The fork, yeah.
Yeah, and then it has a mechanism in it that rests against the tire and spins it through friction.
Exactly. So it's based on the old friction drive sort of principle. This principle has been used before. It's not so. Clip is not the first device to be using friction drive. I think if you look back in the 1950s, there used to be this French bicycle called the Wheel of Solix, which used to have a small friction drive, front-driven internal combustion 50cc engine that used to basically drag the front wheel of the bicycle. Hugely popular. They sold, I think, like 8 million units worldwide at the time. Very celebrated. So now, Clip is kind of like an electric version of that.
And you can see, are you seeing the bike?
Yeah.
So this gives you just a quick look at what the product is. So, as you said, some variations of this have been done. Let's talk about what makes Clip special. I see, obviously rechargeable. I think 50 minutes less than an hour and a half, you're fully recharged and ready to go for 45 minutes of cruising. What else is cool?
The way Clip is different from other e-bikes is that, most all e-bikes, when you start pedaling, the battery starts, draining. Essentially, the motor will continue doing the work. With Clip, we wanted to design it in such a way that, there are certain sections of your commute where you don't need any bike, where you can basically pedal by yourself. So you can choose when to activate Clip. So you can activate Clip while you're going up a hill, and that's when it'll give you it'll reduce your effort by 50% or more. And then, when you're like at the top of the hill, you can turn off Clip. So we can conserve battery and have, a smaller battery pack last you for a longer distance. So that's one of the ways in which we designed around, range anxiety, for example. Like these e-bikes, if you run out of battery, you've essentially got a really heavy bicycle that you have to pedal back home.
Right. And how do you turn it on and off then?
The whole device is self-contained. It has a small remote module, a Bluetooth remote module, which docks into the main device. You pull the remote module out, you strap it to the handlebar before you start your ride. Then you attach the device. Now, when you pedal, you can pedal normally. But when you need the boost, you press on the button. The button is just an on-off switch, essentially. It's just telling the device that, hey, I'm ready to use the device. And that's when, its own algorithm, detects how much torque should be applied to the front wheel. So, we make sure that there is no, additional slippage. There is no, so it keeps it, very smooth. So if you ride an e-bike, for example, you will feel a certain jolt every time the motor kicks in. With this device, it's a much smoother curve. So we've kind of seen that noticed in whenever we give out our demos, like people kind of are really surprised by the smoothness of the power delivery.
And you talk about it being self-contained. You can actually, when you arrive at your workplace, you can just pop it right off the bike. The clip that you
Exactly.
designed is easy enough to do that and take it in every day with you to the office, which means you don't have to worry about it being stolen or get wet or something. So as we understand the sort of dynamics of the friction ability, the friction drive ability and torque, you mentioned about 50% less effort going up a hill. So when you're on a flat surface that doesn't have an incline, then can you sort of just disengage your legs and just ride, and then it takes a little bit of effort going up a hill?
You definitely could. So, it's meant to be a ride assist in the way that, you need to pedal for it to, it to be. So essentially, you become like a flywheel for the entire system. So as you pedal, you kind of keep the system going, but you're, putting in a lot less effort than you normally would if you didn't have a clip attached. So, if you're on a straight, for example, you could go a certain distance if you lift your, feet off the pedals. But then, we've kind of designed in such a way that it'll slowly come down to stop. So you would essentially need to keep pedaling to keep it on that same slope. And we've also, want this to be extremely safe. I mean, we've noticed a lot of, over the past years, how e-bikes are kind of blurring the boundary between, e-motorcycles and bicycles, and they're too fast in a lot of cases. And it is a problem for regular bicyclists when there is a, a vehicle moving at 30 miles per hour or 25 miles per hour moving on the same pathway. So we want to be completely aware of the safety aspect of the biking community, and we cut off the speed at 15 miles per hour. So you cannot go beyond 15 miles per hour by using clip.
That sounds reasonable. And speaking of reasonable, $399 price point seems. How did you determine that as the optimal price point?
So we did a lot of price testing before we, decided on the figure, and even before we had the final product. So we founded Clip in 2018. Me and my co-founder Clem the Alcala, who's so I take on the technology side and he takes on the sales side, and we are sort of a team and kind of build this since then. But as soon as we kind of had our first sort of sets of prototypes, we put up a website and we started asking people, how much would you pay for this? So we found the maximum sort of, the sweet spot somewhere around 400 and 300. And that's kind of where we wanted this device to be, because, we see this as something that is designed to get more people onto the streets using their bicycles. And we want this to be accessible to everyone from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. So we want this price, we're extremely price conscious about this. So we tested that against it and we found this to be a good price point. Also compared to, e-bikes, for example, a decent e-bike is around $2,000. You can buy a good bike for around $500 to $600. So if you add a clip to it, a bundle of clip with it, then around below $1,000, you can have a really good bike with clip.
That makes a lot of sense. And as far as your addressable market, we ride a lot of bikes in the States, but in other places, around the world, you see much denser use of bikes. Where do you anticipate most of your sales coming from? Where are you targeting to launch into?
So right now we are, going to launch in the US because, we are based here and we see a surge in bicycling happening in, some of the larger cities, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. So, there is a lot of sort of, groundswell in terms of people beginning to adopt bicycles more. But there is, of course, a natural fit to the European cultures where the biking culture is already extremely well advanced. So we want to get to a point over the next year as we are kind of working through our manufacturing to pin all of that down, all of our supply chain down, and then expand to Europe. We also see a great opportunity in the place, for example, where I come from. I come from India, and I see a massive market in Southeast Asia. But we kind of need to get to a much more competitive price point before we, enter those markets.
And as far as the trajectory of the company, started 2018. What's been your sort of fundraising history, and how did Thai come onto your radar?
So we bootstrapped it from 2018 till the mid of 2019. We raised a pre-seed towards the end of 2019, 2020. Essentially, we had a pre-seed, and then, of course, 2020 happened, where everybody was indoors, so all of our, dev, got prolonged a bit. Then we started raising our seed round towards the end of 2020. That's when we connected with Thai, and they participated in the seed round. And right now we closed our seed in April this year.
That's great. And I guess, final thing I want to talk about is accessories. My mind is going with, obviously you can build in little cameras and stuff, but I'm thinking something with some deep bass. You could just be cruising down the road with some loud music and bass thumping. Is that on the roadmap?
Definitely, now that you mention it. But yeah, I mean, accessories is going to be a big part of the Clip ecosystem as well. We are looking at, carry bags and, stylish sort of carry bags and cameras, as you mentioned, and other sort of tech products that can easily be clipped onto a bike and, upgrade a bike in that sense.
That's great. Som Ray, I've enjoyed the conversation. It's a really cool product. And
me too, Joe. Thank you.
And appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much, Joe.